Good morning, everyone. My name is Jean-Martin Brault. I'm a senior water and sanitation specialist at the World Bank and leading the digital initiative that we have for the water sector at the global level. So I welcome again to this section on practical ways to ride the digital wave in water utilities. We have a nice session today of showing some practical cases with two of our partners, with Idrica, as well as the GSMA as well, who will present some of the cases that they've been working on or have been collaborating with. And I'm going to start by giving a quick introduction, let's say, of what we're working on to set the tone a little bit. And I'm going to share a few slides with you just to start the discussion today. Let me just project this quickly. Right. Okay. Can you guys just confirm that you're seeing my slides properly?
Jean-Martin, it shows the slide noticeable, so maybe you can change the display settings.
Yeah. There we go. That work?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with just some telling data just to set the tone. I think a lot of us working on digital transformation, particularly in low and middle income countries, have come across some of these sort of this data, this information about the situation of the utilities. And this is taken from a survey that we did last year with the GSMA and the IWA and we got responses from about 90 utilities over the world in about 30 plus countries. And just to give you a sense of where we stand, let's say, and first, when we asked these utilities what were the top 3 barriers to adoption of digital solutions, the first one was the lack of resources or budget. The lack of skills and knowledge came in second place, and then the lack of a clear return on investment was, let's say, a strong third. And you could see that in blue below. I also put that governance, resistance to change, and complexity of technology is there as well, but not as, let's say, perhaps not as important as the very key lack of resources and lack of skills and knowledge. So something to think about. Maybe not surprising, but sometimes we feel that the complexity or the resistance to change may be more important than what we actually received as responses. The other sort of main conclusion that we got from this data was that the digital transformation has indeed started almost everywhere. But the structure or many utilities actually don't have the structure or have not put in place some sort of a structured vision to facilitate this transformation. And so there still needs to be some adjustment in terms of vision and structure to facilitate the digital journey. And in fact, we saw that 2/3 of utilities had not formalized their digital vision or adapted their structure to facilitate that journey. So some work also on the institutional side and the strategic side. And then the other one was the adoption of smart operational practices is very low. We saw, for example, that 2/3 of the utilities that were surveyed either didn't use the data that they have for maintenance or performance management, or don't use the data or use actually the data more in a reactive mode rather than in a predictive mode. And less than 10% of the utilities that we surveyed, and this was a span, let's say a range from low income to high income and in between. So less than 10% had embraced big data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. So just a quick slide to give you some ideas of what to think about. And then I'm going to make a quick summary of what the work we're doing, and then the partnerships that we're building this work on. So I mentioned the first one on the left here was the digital maturity survey that we did last year with the GSMA and the IWA, and we'd like to keep using this to build a database on where utilities stand and give us ideas on some of the priorities that we need to work on. And the second level that we've been working on is we're calling it the digital initiator. We've tested this in many countries, including Lebanon, Peru. And this is a 3-hour assessment that we use to identify sub-dimensions that utilities should start looking at if they want to either continue or initiate their digital transformation. And that gives us sort of an idea of what we want to deep dive into. And that's our third level. What we call the digital maturity deep dive. It's a 2-3 week exercise. This is a tool that we've developed in collaboration with Idrica. And at the end of that 2-3 week exercise, the utilities have a roadmap with priority activities to work on. They have a budget, a tentative one, and a timeline. And we've developed this in Kenya, India, the Ukraine, and we're also working on scaling this up in Peru. We've worked with 3 so far, and we're working on scaling up this up to 6, and hopefully to all utilities in the country with the ministry in charge of digital transformation there. And then the fourth level, which may not be, let's say, a level in itself, it's more of a parallel step. Also, we're developing this with Idrica is to go a step further into sort of being practical about things, and we're calling it digital prescriptions. So, for example, if a utility comes and says, "I would like to reduce non-revenue water," so we draw some sort of a non-revenue water reduction journey for them and indicate at which points and how digital solutions can help enhance that journey. So this is just, I wanted to give you a sense of what we're working on. Also the partnerships, both these partners that I mentioned here, GSMA and Idrica, will present today. And so I'll hand it over and start and stop sharing my screen for this, but I'll hand it over to the next block that we have and give the word to Joan Carles Guardiola, our partner at Idrica, for this first block, this first collaboration block that we want to showcase today. Joan Carles will present Idrica's digital solutions and spotlight the partnership that they have with Monterrey. And so I'll hand it over to you, Joan.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jean-Martin, for the introduction. I will start sharing my screen. Let me find the PowerPoint. Here it is. Please confirm you see my presentation full screen.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Joan Guardiola. I'm Services and Solutions Specialist here at Idrica. And well, what is Idrica? So Idrica is a global leader, a company that is leading the digital transformation in the water sector. We are a spin-off company of Global Omnium. Global Omnium is a water utility based in Valencia, in Spain. My background is from this water utility. I've been working there for already 15 years. And well, it's a company that has more than 133 years of experience, more than 2,400 employees, managing the water service in around 400 municipalities, including the metropolitan area of Valencia, but also in many other cities, not only in the Valencian region, Spain, but also in other parts of Spain. And now we are also becoming an international company with contracts mainly in Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East. So in terms of digital, what we always say is that we are experts in the digital transformation. Because we had to when we did this journey, we had to build our own path. So we were pioneers in different aspects of digital transformation. The driver behind the necessity of the digital transformation of the company was the necessity of becoming a more sustainable company. We live in a region in the Mediterranean region of Spain that is very a water stressed region. So yeah, some I would say like 15 years ago, something like that. We know the company was having problems of sustainability. We needed the company to be more, as a water utility, to be more efficient, in the use of water. But not only that, the company had to ensure the sustainability, in the technical sustainability of the company, the financial sustainability, and also the social, because we have to deliver the best service possible to our customers. So we started a digitalization process at that time by installing a lot of sensors in the network, not even knowing very well what was the strategy behind all this installation of sensors for different purposes. But in the end, this massive installation of all kinds of sensors for monitoring water consumption or flows in the network, water quality, different processes in the water facilities, in the water production and wastewater treatment facilities. So in the end, this became a big change we needed a big change in order to manage to cope with such amounts of data. This is for you to have an idea, the evolution only of metering data between 2006 and 2018 as a result of this massive installation of sensors. Nowadays, the company is already managing like 1 million smart meters that are providing a lot of data. But this is like the last steps of digitalization. Okay, so we had a lot of data when we started this digitalization program. But then what could we do with all that data? So we learned a lot, and we can summarize all the challenges we've had to face in terms of in relation with the digital journey in 3 steps. So first it was about the people, that to find when we had all that data available, the company, engineers, we were becoming very creative to create value with the data. But we needed to have a very good strategy in order to capitalize all the information available in the infrastructure. So we had a very clear ambition from our board of directors. We selected the right people to work on digital transformation, and this was the key for success. Then we had to face another problems, where we developed a lot of by ourselves, a lot of tools for managing the different processes of the water utility. But eventually we had to face this IT chaos, because we developed a lot of solutions by ourselves, and then we had this problem of having many different types of sensors integrated, different technologies, different languages. Each of the different applications was built with a full stack of technology. So we had this kind of what we call spaghetti architecture, with a full stack of technology for each of the applications. So everything was becoming a nightmare. So we learned that we had to create. This is what we did in 2018, to create a platform that was we constructed like a transversal platform in which the data was in the core of the platform. So we created this what we call now the smart water engine of the platform. We make all the different applications work, common architecture for all the different applications. And yes, this was the seed for for Idrica to be created. Okay, so in 2019 we created Idrica as a spin-off company of Global Omnium, and the main objective of Idrica was first to commercialize this smart water platform we had created. Now this platform is called after our partnership with Silent V, powered by GoIWA. So we have like a wide portfolio of solutions for managing all these different processes and services that normally water utilities manage. But we also offer other services to our customers to help them also to work hand in glove with them to in their digital journey. So we also offer these consultancy services that Jean-Martin was mentioning before, and technical assistance in different ways. So we by ourselves, by Idrica, we've managed to become an international company. We have projects all over the world in all the 3 years of experience, and now from 2023 we joined forces with Silent, which is one of the main companies in the water sector. It's a big company that is helping also transmitting our message all over the world and having the opportunity to have more and more projects. In collaboration with the World Bank, we are participating in the initiatives mentioned by Jean-Martin, and again with the objective of working water utilities doing their digital transformation successfully. So this is all from my side. Now I give the floor to Eduardo, that will present the experience of the water company in Monterrey in Mexico, and some of the work we've done together. Okay, all yours. Thank you very much. All yours, Eduardo.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks for the introduction. Can you confirm me that you can see my screen?
Yes, perfectly, Eduardo.
Yes. Thanks. So, well, my name is Eduardo Ortegón. I am Chief Technology and Innovation Officer of Servicios de Agua y Drenaje de Monterrey. We service the whole state of Nuevo León, Mexico, and the second largest city in Mexico, which is the industrial capital as well. Monterrey is, on one hand, growing very steadily. We have 140,000 people from other parts of Mexico arriving each year. And on one hand, and on the other hand, we're in the driest hydrological basin in Mexico, so we have a lot of water stress. And when we arrived, this administration, we were in a very compromised situation because of the lack of resources, particularly of two dams. We have 3 dams in the States, and the second and the third one were about to deplete. So there was this national emergency declared. For the first time in over 30 years, we were not able to give 24 service. And this was the forecast when we took office. There was a big gap between the demand and the supply. No? This was the forecast of October 2021. Here you can see a picture of the NASA that took of our second biggest dam, Cerro Prieto. The top part is 2015, and the bottom part was last year. We were really compromised, a very stressful situation. And we were news all over the world. We were all over the globe, and in many news stories that talk about the crisis that we had. So what to do with lack of water or very limited supply of waters, and what to do from the direction that I have under my charge, which is technology and innovation. So we partner up with Idrica, and we started implementing state-of-the-art technology in all of our DMAs. So on one hand, there were, of course, actions in the offer side, even cloud seeding with plain, deep and shallow wells, drilling, a second water pipe from our main dam, but that was not the solution. The solution was to manage the pressure by using the latest technology available, everything on a platform that Joan just presented, Goaiwa. And there's an antecedent on this program. There was in 2015 some efforts that did not transcend. But what we did is we harness all these very small DMAs that Monterrey has. We have in the city that is around 5.5 million inhabitants, 1.8 million users, water users. We have 3,000 DMAs. So we have 3,000 small circuits with just one entrance. And as you can see in the pictures, we started installing pressure relief valves, meters, data loggers, actuators, and everything connected to our platform. So this is one example of one specific sector that we instrumented. As you can see on the left-hand side, with no intervention from us, we were using 863 cubic meters per day. When they started doing intermittent service, they save only around 6%, and with all the damage that going up and down in pressure costs to our pipeline. But by implementing these two shift pressure, one day shift and one night shift pressure, we were able to save more than a third of the total volume, and all these giving 24/7 service. As you can see, we're giving water to the whole city in an non-intermittent way, with around 1.4 cubic meters less than 2 years ago, 1 year before the crisis. But if we take into consideration the growth that the city had, we're using less than around 2.4 cubic meters per second less. And all this with less complaints for lack of water. Now we're doing this in a more efficient way and a more socially sustainable way, because our users are less complaining less with lack of water. And I'm going to show you how our platform looks. The city is still not all instrumented. We're working on it. We have like 2/3, but we have divided into operational centrals. We have divided it into macro sectors, into tanks, zones, into small DMAs, and all this information that we have has helped us not just to manage the pressure, but to identify leaks, identify leaky sectors, identify punctual big leaks, and to be able to fight all the components, basically all the components of non-revenue water. Now, the information we have is truly amazing, and we're just starting. As I mentioned, last year there was a crisis, but this year we have around 17% less water, and we're giving 24/7 service. This is the combined volumes of both our dams that were compromised, La Boca and Cerro Prieto. The red line is the projection that we would have had with no modulation. As you can see, we extended the life of these two dams by 8 months with no rains. So 8 months difference. If you see it in the demand side, the red ones is the projected demand that we have had. Last year, as I mentioned, it was critical year, but we have saved over 44 million cubic meters of water. This is bigger than our third dam, and this is just in an 9-month period span. So pretty much to end up my presentation, I just want to mention that on one hand, we have a very big, very considerable population explosion, and unreliable sources for sure, and climate change problems that all the main cities in the world face. But on the other one, we have technology and state-of-the-art platforms that, like the one we're using, so we can rely on to be more efficient and to not manage the utility with more and more volumes, but by doing a more efficient use of our water. Thanks. I don't hear you.
Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you very much. I guess that Jean-Martin will take over.
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
very much, Juan and Eduardo, for this first block. Very interesting example. The numbers are impressive. What you were able to do in such a critical situation. And so what I would like to do is to see if there are questions for this first block in the audience. And I see that there are two here for Eduardo. So maybe we can take a few minutes to answer these questions before we move on to the next block. So Eduardo, the first question was, do you observe a direct or indirect financial improvement after using the platform? And then maybe you can answer that one, and then I'll put the other one on the table.
Well, there's a lot of savings, energy savings. There will a lot of savings for sure by using the platform. And I will tell you this: we're working on the whole program cost 1/15, 1 divided by 15 times what a new dam will cost, and we're recovering more water than what that dam will provide when there's water, you know. And this water is much more valuable because what we're recovering is already on our distribution system. It's not 100 kilometers away, and that has not of raw water, you know, not even potabilized. So yes, for sure, there's an financial impact on using this platform and all the instrumentation that comes with it.
And maybe, you know, there are a few questions on the case, Eduardo, and then I'm gonna try to let's say bring them together. There's two questions on the IT solution, basically. So one question was that it's the solution you presented or the case you presented is based on information coming from both pressure and meter readings. And so the first question was, how do you use this information and transform it into identifying leaks? And the second question, which is related, no, it's what was the role of IT in pressure reduction? So answered these ones, and then there's another one before we move on to the next block.
Okay, the way we locate leaks, there's this key performance indicator that the platform gives us, that is the night use divided by the day use. If in a healthy DMA, the difference between night use and day use must be high, you know. So by dividing the day shift into night shift, if the value goes to or gets near to 1, that means that instead of having a behavior with ups very and downs very different, if they tend to be the same, that means that we have a lot of leaks in that particular DMA. On the other hand, if we have a normal behavior and suddenly it changes a lot, we know firsthand, we have an alert and we know that there might have been a very big leak there. That was the first question. And the other one, we change the TI department. We make it technology, not just IT. We make it technology that to be used in the operation of the whole water utility. It was a change, a deep change in the department, because we used to deal only with computer and printers and software and hardware, but now we are really taking charge of all the technology related to the distribution systems and the conduction systems. Of course, if there's a leak, the operation department fix it, but everything, and we have a lot of technological elements in our system, we are in charge of all those technological elements. So IT, and of course, we also have the big data analysis department in IT. So we do have a big part in the operation now of the system.
Thanks, Eduardo. And maybe just before we move on to the next block, if you could, one question was about to give us some sort of an indication of the costs of implementing this. I don't know if you can share some information on this.
Yes, the whole thing must have cost. Well, it's just the automatization of the distribution system. We bought 3,000 valves, but 90% of those valves are 4 inches, you know, and all that with all the equipment, the hardware and the software, around $27 million. But now we're moving to automatization of the big pipes, of the water tanks. This was just the beginning, and this was the best way to recover water in the short term. But what we want is to continue with the momentum and to really give a new phase to the water utility by implementing state-of-the-art technology. But this first part, around $27 million.
And that includes the sensors and the platform and the investments and
even installation. We're doing part ourselves and part with contractors because time is of essence.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Eduardo and Juan again. Now we're going to move on to the next block with the GSMA. So this next block will be first led by Zach White from the GSMA. Zach is the Senior Insights Manager for mobile, for development and digital utilities with the GSMA, and he's going to talk about first about GSMA and also about the collaboration with Diallo in Nepal. So I'll hand it over to you, Zach.
Thanks, Jean-Martin. And just to check, my slides are up. Is that right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks. And good afternoon, everyone from Stockholm. So I'm going to give a 10-minute presentation, which will briefly introduce the GSMA, a little bit on how we think about digitalization and some of the work we've done, and then tee up a video prepared specifically for this event by one of our grantees in Nepal. So to start with, the GSMA represents the interests of mobile operators worldwide. We're an industry association. But a little over 10 years ago, the Mobile for Development program was formed, and we support digital innovation to reduce inequalities in the world. I work with the Digital Utilities program, which focuses on urban areas across 5 sectors, which includes water and sanitation. In terms of our program offer, and this links to the work we've done, we provide equity-free grants to private sector organizations. We focus really on market validation, so providing the initial evidence for companies that have a solution ready to test it across markets, and also some for replication across contexts. The research and insights function where I work draws on that and our understanding across the ecosystem to push it out. We also work on partnerships, particularly with mobile operators, where the solution requires some sort of cellular connectivity, and we provide technical advice. And just to put some numbers to the innovation funding, to date, we've distributed about £24 million to just over 120 organizations. Within 2 years of the grants, these organizations have impacted nearly 50 million people, and there's been about 650 million in follow-on investments, and very nearly 90 partnerships with mobile operators for those organizations. In water, we've focused on a range of solutions. Previously, we did fund some rural water. We focused more on cities as time has gone on. You can broadly divide these into the kind of crude business-to-business models of utility tools, which I'll talk a little bit more today. But there's also a range of business-to-customer solutions that work in a particularly decentralized way. And I'd flag for those in Stockholm, Janajal, Drinkwell, and Wonderkid are all here if you'd like to meet them. We have seen these models scale, but we've also seen a lot of these providers adapt as time's gone on, from providing just a technology solution to packaging that in a business model that really works with utilities. And though our work has focused a lot on the innovator side, we've also increasingly done more research on utilities' experience of digital adoption, which is the start of our collaboration with the World Bank, because there are some very fundamental questions around how we think about digitalization and how we can even ask and appraise levels of digital maturity. So this piece of work in Kenya now a couple of years ago was where we started to frame how to think about digital adoption from a utility perspective, with an eye to finding some of the questions and the language to have a good conversation about adoption with utilities across contexts. Because if you go to one utility and you say, you know, what are your digital initiatives, and you go to another, you'll get very different answers depending on who you talk about. And we settled on a framing of asking around technology domains, which essentially form the reference architecture for any digital solution. And we found that this was useful for giving us a language for talking to utilities, but also very importantly is there's a sitting alone is the customer relationships, and particularly the communications and payment piece in a lot of contexts. Another way to look at this is to consider it in relation to utility operations, and to begin to think about where those technology solutions come together. And I think this points slightly towards the World Bank work around Utilities of the Future framework, and getting a little bit more prescriptive about where different solutions can come in for different problems, and where they unite utility functions across different areas. A quick snapshot from that work in Kenya. This is now a couple of years old, so possibly out of date. But I think the first reflection of looking at we looked at 4 utilities in Kenya. They were some of the larger utilities in the country. We didn't know going into this research process what we'd find. And I think honestly, we were quite surprised about the extent of adoption across contexts, particularly on the customer relationship piece, with 2 of those utilities closing all cash offices. I think on the data acquisition piece, we found it was much, much more limited. And the kind of smart meters, or the two-way management and control, limited in some of those different use cases. We found also a lot that, you know, GIS mapping had been done, but there was poor use of those data. And interestingly, utilities, and I think this ties to what colleagues from Idrica were saying, utilities finding that once they had a few kind of bespoke systems or pilots, they really needed to invest in ERP and enterprise resource planning software to create a solid digital environment for those. And then from that work, I'll talk through some of the key opportunities we see at different stages. I think for many utilities that haven't started, there's a real need to understand the world of possibilities in terms of digital adoption, both the solutions that are out there and how they fit with their particular needs. And I think there's also the opportunity for the low-hanging fruit around digitalizing payments, meter reading and billing, the real bread and butter stuff, and the stuff that's likely to have an impact on revenues quickly. Then we come to the stage of needing to test and deploy some of those. And I think there's a strong case for, grant or other forms of support that allow for the piloting of technology. A lot of the staff we spoke to emphasized the importance of needing to learn by doing as they were going, and to build confidence in those digital solutions through pilots. And I think we also saw that as utilities started, a real focus came through on customer engagement and digitalizing those relationships. As things move on, there's the need to really invest in those digital systems to bring together all of the various initiatives and create that single digital environment. And that's also where we saw a lot of the utilities begin to focus on making much more use of the data that they have. And it's also where, cybersecurity starts to become a big concern. And finally, this framework belongs to the IWA of these gradings of digital maturity. And then at the later stages, there's really a big question of financing those large-scale hardware deployments and the evolving strategy for, really using and integrating those analytics in everything the utility do. The IWA framework has one more stage, but we saw nothing like that. So we don't have any insights on the final stage. I've got one slide just on what we know, because I think it sets up a little bit, and there'll be some repetition from Jean-Martin's overview. It's really not a lot. So there was the Smart Water Survey in 2019, which was delivered by a consortium of universities and research partners there. But the responses were overwhelmingly from high-income countries. As I mentioned, there was then the effort, together with the World Bank and ourselves, to get a wider range of responses, which we did reasonably well on. It's not perfect. And we've had a snapshot of those data, but I think the thing that I'd emphasize on what we know is we have those data, and I think the World Bank will be making them available more widely shortly. But this was a self-selecting sample pushed out through networks and memberships. And I think in terms of understanding digital, those two surveys have within them embedded a framework, an idea of what it is to be digital. But those consistent data within regions, I think, begin to highlight a lot of the investment needs. Nonetheless, those snapshot of data do bring into light the points that Jean-Martin highlighted, which is it started, but there's still a long way to go. So I think exciting on that front. And that leads me to a few personal reflections about where I think things are, or where we think things are. I think the exciting points are around the pipeline of innovations. The funding trends are quite positive, and the ecosystem supporting a lot of these deployments is impressive. And I think many of the organizations at World Water Week, Imagine H2O, ADB Ventures, and many more, are supporting and nurturing that next generation of solutions. We're also starting to see a closer integration between digital adoption and the finance that supports those, and particularly, and I think very importantly, new sources of finance, be they either to ventures or from national commercial institutions. And I would highlight Aquaful's work there as particularly impressive. As well as we also know some banks like Standard Chartered looking much more closely at the sector. The digital foundations we have are increasingly strong. I think, connectivity, digital payments, and the general level of digital competency in populations is really supporting things moving forward, and the sense of urgency. And the final slide for me is where we think things could go to really accelerate. A powerful thing we've seen in some of the kind of research work we've done, where we've facilitated dialogues, is the information sharing, particularly within a given country or in region and between utilities, is often most powerful in terms of opening eyes to what's possible, and also brings to the fore the kind of proof of concepts that exists within different countries. I think the work that the World Bank is doing is really valuable in terms of understanding the capacity needs or where different utilities are at different stages. And I think, especially working in more low-income contexts, pairing this with the support that can go with that. As mentioned before, there's a lot more focus on the partnership models that support the financing solutions together with the product. And I think that's really important for a lot of the cases where utilities are in very difficult financial positions. And we've seen a lot of the organizations we work with pivot to software as a solution type models, so modular, scalable SaaS offerings, but also looking at revenue share models where you have to deliver more capital expenditure. And then finally, the governance that supports innovation and in particularly that balance of leadership that's needed within national institutions and the decentralized decision-making within the utilities so that they can move quickly enough. So that's it from me. If you'd like to talk more or meet any of those organizations that I mentioned, my email is there and I'm at World Water Week. As I mentioned at the top, we're working with a company in Nepal at the moment called Diallo. They're quite impressive in that they've developed an ERP solution which is now used by utilities covering roughly a third of the country. And in particular, this spans very small providers with simple systems looking to just digitalize some functions to, you know, some of the larger utilities, and they've bootstrapped that solution from the start. Our grant specifically was for them to test IoT in that context, so we could understand what could be deployed more. And with that, I shall say thank you very much and hand back to colleagues to play that video. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Zach. And as you just mentioned, we're going to show a 5-minute video on the experience of 2 utilities, Pitua and Toka, with the implementation of the Diallo solution. And after that, we'll go back to the Q&A as we wrap up the session. Thanks again.
मेरो नाम चाहिँ आशिक तामाङ हो। म पिठुखानी बन्द सरसर्वोदय संस्थाको अध्यक्ष हो। संस्थामा हिजो यो प्रविधिहरू नहुँदा वा यो प्रविधिलाई हामीले स्थापित नगराउँदासम्ममा चाहिँ मेन पावरको धेरै खर्च हुने, एउटै कामको लागि विविध खालका झन्झटहरू हुने, सबभन्दा ठुलो कुरो चाहिँ संस्थाको आर्थिक पारदर्शिता, संस्थाको गतिविधिका बारेमा पनि बुझ्न बुझाउन पनि धेरै अप्ठ्यारो परिस्थिति हिजोका दिनमा थियो भने पछिल्लो चरणमा हामीले संस्थालाई डिजिटल तर्फलाई जोडिसकेपछि अब प्रविधि मैत्री बनाउने तर्फ विभिन्न खालका चाहिँ विषयवस्तुलाई जोडिसकेपछि यो कुरामा चाहिँ सहजीकरण भएको छ। यसले हाम्रो काम गर्ने त्यो क्षमतालाई पनि यसले विकास गरेको छ। संस्थाको यसले मान प्रतिष्ठादेखि लिएर संस्थाको कार्यक्षमतामा समेत र हामी जो साथीहरू खानपानीमा जोडिएका छौँ, कर्मचारी मित्रहरू, समितिका साथीहरू, सल्लाहकार, लेखा समिति वा विविध खालका साथीहरू सबैजनाको चाहिँ यसले क्षमता वृद्धि गरेको छ। यसले हामी सबैलाई एउटा नेतृत्व विकासमा पनि यसले टेवा पुर्याएको छ भन्ने हाम्रो मूल्याङ्कन छ। पानीको महसुल तिर्न मात्रै पनि मान्छे संस्था कार्यालयसम्म आउने, धाइदै आउनुपर्ने, लाइन बस्नुपर्ने, पानी, घाम, हावाहुरी, बतास सबै ठाउँमा आउनुपर्ने खालको एउटा बाध्यात्मक परिस्थिति थियो। तर पछिल्लो चरणमा हामीले प्रविधि वा डिजिटल संस्थालाई जोडिसकेपछि स्वदेशमा मात्रै होइन विदेशमा समेत बसेर पनि संस्थाको खानेपानी लगायत अन्य महसुलहरू सजिलै भुक्तानी गर्न सक्ने, संस्थाका विविध विषयवस्तुमा चाहिँ जानकारी सजिलै सहज रूपमा चाहिँ लिन सक्ने, त्यो सँगसँगै संस्थाले आज के काम गर्दैछ वा के काम हुँदैछ भन्ने कुराको जानकारी लिने, संस्थामा हामी समितिका साथीहरूलाई पनि रकम कति मागी छ, के कति शीर्षकमा खर्च भए, कहाँ कसरी कामहरू भइरहेका छन्, विविध खालका शीर्षकहरूमा के कस्ता चिजहरू विषयवस्तु भए, यो सबै बारेमा चाहिँ हामीले सहज रूपमा चाहिँ हामीले यसको जानकारी प्राप्त गरिरहेका छौँ।
नमस्ते, मेरो नाम कर्ण बहादुर दङ्गल हो। म टोखा बिरगत खानेपानी तथा सरसफाइ उपभोक्ता समितिमा स्थापनाकालदेखि नै कार्यालय प्रमुखको रूपमा कार्यरत छु। यो टोखा नगरपालिका वडा नम्बर 2 मा अवस्थित छ। यसको उद्देश्य भनेको घरैपछि धारा दिनु हो। अहिले यो 2080 साल श्रावण 5 गतेको मितिसम्ममा 1940 वटा प्राइभेट ट्याप कनेक्सन भइसकेको छ भने 16 वटा पब्लिक ट्यापहरू छन्। धारा वितरण गर्दाखेरि अब त्यहाँ एउटा डाटा राख्ने एउटा हाम्रो जिम्मेवारी रहन्छ। नेम लिस्ट राख्नुपर्ने, मासिक शुल्क राख्नुपर्ने, जडान खर्च राख्नुपर्ने, कार्यालय सञ्चालन खर्च राख्नुपर्ने, ती यावत कुराहरू एउटा हातले लेखेर साध्य हुने कुरा पनि भएन। हामीले म्यानुअली राख्दाखेरि कसैको नाम छुट्ने, कसैको बिलिङ छुट्ने, रकम छुट्ने भएकोले हामी यो सफ्टवेयरको खोजीमा गयौँ। सफलताका कारणहरू जाँचिने एउटा प्रमुख भनेको एउटा चाहिँ परिणाम टाइममा आउनु पर्यो, रिजल्ट बेस हुनु पर्यो। हामीले महँगो तिरेर सफ्टवेयर हाल्यौँ तर रिजल्ट आएन भने त्यो काम हुँदैन। त्यसकारण यो रिजल्ट एकदम फ्रुटफुल भइरहेछ। जस्तै समयमा हाम्रो रिपोर्ट आउने, जस्तै कस्टमरको टोटल ड्युज कति छ, ब्यालेन्स कति छ, खपत कति छ, उसले पे गर्नुपर्ने सबै एकैचोटि भनेको समयमा देखाउँछ कि त्यसले। त्यसकारणले पनि यो भयो।
Great. I wonder. So now we're getting to the end of the session. We have about 8 minutes left, and so I wanted to see if there were other questions for Zach, and also not about the GSMA, and also about the experience with the collaboration with Diallo in Nepal. And if there are other questions also that were left unanswered, let me just check for the first block. We'll go to these as well. Maybe we could take the slides off the main screen and see if, so let me go check. There's a question that was left. There's a couple questions that were left unanswered. I think one was from Adam, was for Eduardo. And Adam, if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, you can unmute and say so. But I think this was for Eduardo. So Eduardo, the question was: are you also using pipeline conditional assessment tools to pinpoint the suspected leaks? For example, Pure Technology Smart Ball.
Thanks for the question. We're familiarized with Pure Technologies. We have a proposal from them, but Pure Technologies is just for very big diameter pipe for our main aqueduct. So of course it's on the table, but right now everything is of course the pre-location of leaks is done with our digital platform. So when we have an indicator that certain DMA has a lot of leaks, then our crews, our leak location crews, go there with the traditional equipment that is for leak location that is acoustical, and that's how we find the leaks. But we're talking about DMAs of 500 meters, so water meters, so they're very small. So that's the advantage of the city of Monterrey and the platform we're using. We have very small DMAs, so we have the city divided into very small sections.
Great, thanks, Eduardo. And I think there might be another one for you before I have one for Zach as well. So I think that what the work you presented was on pressure and flow meters, but you also have initiatives working on using sensors for water quality to estimate and react to that.
Yes, and that's in part because in Mexico the law concerning potable water just changed. So far we focus on volume recovery because of the crisis that I presented, because of the hydric stress that we suffered last year and we're still suffering. But of course we want to harness all the potential of the platform we're using, and the platform also could include quality information. So that's on our pipeline for sure, but so far we have not yet implemented quality sensors in our distribution system, in our platform, but for sure we will do it in the next years.
Great. Thanks for the question and the response. And maybe to put something into the discussion for the second block, Zach, I have a question for you. If you could tell us a little bit maybe about how this came to be, how this partnership came to be with Diallo. I think you hinted to some of this, and then maybe tell us a little bit how, we saw from the video some of the challenges that they had, the two water committees, and what maybe you can share with us some of the challenges that you had working with Diallo to make sure that this gets a fruitful conclusion, and then on its way to a scale up. No, you mentioned a third of the water committees in Nepal are using that solution now. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So the way that we work is we hold open innovation competitions. So they're thematic rounds that are published, and we generally receive about, and these are usually multi-sector, and we generally receive about 600 applications, which we filter down to a cohort of 10. So when we say we see a lot of vibrant innovations coming forward, but our funding, like I say, is really targeted towards market validation and also learning about what's possible in some of the harder contexts. In terms of, Diallo's experience of some of the challenges they face, and I think this extends to some of the other providers, such as WonderKid, is the sales cycle is really difficult with utilities. So it takes a very long time to build those relationships, and it's a very close sales approach. The process of building trust, particularly with some of the smaller utilities, and really being able to articulate the value proposition of their solution is an uphill battle and requires a lot of investment. And I think then, once you begin working with the client, or the clients that they work with, you're engaging with a massive range of capacity, and in a lot of cases, it will be both utility staff as well as customers' first interaction with some of these technologies. So there's an investment that's required in, it just takes a lot of time. That said, I think what is impressive about Diallo and others is that they're working successfully in those contexts. And I think the other encouraging thing is that a lot of the broader enabling conditions that work for supporting digital adoption are moving in the right direction. So I think, as I said earlier, there's increasingly fertile ground, and there's that pipeline of innovation that is coming through at a time when it's really needed.
Well, thanks very much, Zach, for sharing your insights on this particular case, but also for the collaboration throughout the last few years. And I want to maybe close on this I think I say this in every session that we host and that we participate in, is that this is we are a community of practice, and we need to keep it that way, meaning that we need to share our experience, make sure that we cut sort of the learning curve for the utilities that we work in. So I sort of invite everybody that was here today and connected to keep thinking about conforming this community of practice, and I think I'll leave it at that. No, thanks very much for participating. Thanks to Joan and Eduardo, Zach, and the team behind organizing this session, and hope you liked it, and hope we keep the conversation going. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.